In this video, which is part 3 of how to create the arrow tip donut chart, we're going to focus on the tooltip. And you can see here, we're going to make sure that the tooltip line will nicely align based on the position. And even if I refresh, you can see there's the movement of this tooltip that will work nicely with it. So let's start to look how to do this. So next, it is time to continue on by creating these lines. So to do this, the first thing, make sure you have the code from this is part 3, so make sure you have the code from that one. If you want to get it, check out my Patreon page, or if you just want to follow the videos, just look at my videos here, part 2 for that one. And if you have a question, put it on Discord. All the links are in the description box. So to create these connecting lines, that was the next part of it, we will have to create a new plugin. So what I'm going to do here is create the next plugin, and this will be the tooltip. So we can say here maybe what is a nice name? It's a line tooltip. Going to copy that, and we will start to do that just below here. So we can say here constant this tooltip will be equal to, and then here the ID will be this, comma, and then we're going to say here this will be done after we draw the data sets. And the reason why is we want to be on top of these donut slices here. So we're going to say chart, arc, and plugin options. And then we're going to say here constant will be ctx. We want to draw it on the canvas, and of course the tooltip that we want to use, because we want to know once we hover on one of the slices to then and only then activate our custom tooltip or our lookalike tooltip. So what we're going to do here is first let's start to activate that, and that's the reason why I have this one here. So what I'm going to say here is an if statement, and then, or before you even do an if statement, do a console log. Then say tooltip, save, open up the developer tab. You can see here if I hover over something, you will see we're getting some information. Right now we don't see the tooltip info, but we do know that it is either active, yes or no. And this here for me is very important, and we're going to grab this. Just a quick note, because this has an underscore, it indicates that chart.js wants to probably maybe chartjs 5 or anywhere in the future try to change the position of this until there's no underscore. Underscore means they're looking for a way to solve or change that. Be aware of it. It might break in the future, but so you are aware of that specific item. So what we're going to do here is active, save, refresh, and then if I hover over it, you can see here we're getting some data. This data is what I need, and as you can see here, we can see here on which data set index. Since we only have one data set here, that's fine, but we also know here on which data point or which slice. So let's go even a bit more further. What we're going to do here is I guess we can just say here active. If I do 0.index to grab the value, let's see if it works, and you can see we get an error. And the reason why is when it loads, it doesn't have the data yet. So this creates an issue. So we can say here maybe length, save, refresh. So once we have that, as you can see here, we're hovering. Well, I can just show you later on the true result of that one. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do here, copy this, create an if statement, and then we say if there is any length. In that case, what I would like to do is copy this, put that in here, then we can say here active, and then that we can say here index 0. Why index 0? We're hovering only on one slice at a time. This is not a line chart where two dots are on the same position. In that case, it would be a active 0 and an active 1 or more. So then we're going to say here tooltip active index. Just save that, refresh, and now if I hover over it, as you can see here, every time I hover over a slice, it will start to show. There we are. All right. So once we have this, now we can move on and start to do something of drawing. So what I want to do here, the first thing is we're going to grab that active value. So we're going to say here the hover index, which we just had. Basically, that's just this one here. Active index 0 dot index. This is very important for us because we will be using this afterwards multiple times. So then what I want to do is I want to say what is the active slice. So we're going to say a constant active slice, and the active slice is the one I just showed you as well. But how will I get this? I'm going to use the built-in functionality. We're going to say chart get dataset meta. We already know that there's only one data set here, so we can do it like this, or else you could do the trick I showed you, but this is more than enough for our case. Data, and then I'm just going to grab the hover index number. There we are. So now we get the data set as well, so we know exactly what to do next. Well, basically with this we can start to extract the required information that we need. So what I'm going to do here now is, because what we have to do is very similar as previously, I want to reset for this tooltip or for this plugin. We did not reset it with the translate that we did here, somewhere here, center X. So what I'm going to do is going to grab most of this, and then afterwards we're going down, and then just say here, going to put it in there, and I forgot here, just let's put in here ctx.save. I probably have to move this later on, but just leave it in there for now. Then this here will not be the data point, but the active slice. So I want to renumber this, because then we can draw the lines and easily calculate movements of it. For the outer radius, the inner radius, and then the center radius, we'll be needing all of these, because what I need to do is I need to calculate this position here. And that can be done with our center radius. You have the end angle, not sure if we need it. I'll just leave it in there for now, and then later on we'll see. So what I'm going to do now is the very next thing is I need to calculate this position here. To calculate this, I'm going to use the math method, and then math.cosine and math.sine. So basically what I'm going to say here, constant, and let's say this will be the dot that we want to draw. So say constant, the x position of the dot. And then how will we do this? We're going to say math dot cosine. Then we're going to grab here the center radius, which will help us to calculate where this position is in here. Then what I want to do is I want to say this will be minus, and I'm going to make sure that this is being calculated first, dot math.pi divided by 2. And the reason I'm doing that is because if we're going to calculate the circle in the canvas, as I said earlier, it starts here instead of here. So basically we need to go a pi, or basically a half of a pi back, because 2 pi is one circle, and a half pi is a half circle, and a quarter of a pi, or quarter of a circle, is I guess that's a half of a pi. I'm not sure if I said it correctly, but you get my point here. So what I want to do here, and once we did that, then we multiply by the outer radius, and the outer radius is the distance from here to this point. So let's see if we have that. Multiply that. We have all of this together, semicolon, save. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing, but now it's for the y position. For the y position, all we keep everything same, with the exception of sine. So we're going to keep that one in there. And now let's see if we're getting the expected item. So I'm going to cut out this save and move it down here. There we are. Then I'm going to say here to draw this dot, I'm going to translate first. So I say ctx dot translate, and the translate will be again the x center and the y center. We're going to reassign the numbers, and the center in here will be the 0 position. And this will be very important later on. So once we did this, I can say here ctx.begin path to draw the shape. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say ctx.stroke, well, let's say line width, and the line width will be 1 pixel. And then we're going to say ctx.stroke style, and we're going to give this white. That was the sample that I saw in the image, so we're going to keep that same. So we say white, and maybe this could be even 2 pixels, to be honest. That was the design itself. So then, once we did this, I'm going to say here the filler, so say ctx.fill style, and the fill style will be gray or black. I'll just use black so it's easy to spot. Once we did that, we're going to start to draw that circle or dot. So say ctx.arc, and the arc has 6 values: the x position, y position, the radius, the angle, and then we have here our angle start, angle end, and then finally what we have more is basically counterclockwise, yes or no. In this case, I will set this on false. Most of the time we don't need a counterclockwise. We can just set it on false. This will be 0, and this one we could do an angle, or we can just say math.pi times 2 in this case. That's a full circle, so I'll just leave it like that, makes it easy. This one we already have calculated here. So we're going to put that in here. The y position dot as well, and for the radius, depending on how big of the circle you want, let's say a 5 pixel radius. Once we save this, I need to draw it, so I'm going to say ctx.stroke to draw the border line, that will be white, and finally we have a ctx.fill to draw the inner background color. Let's save that, refresh. If I hover, oh, there we are. So this is what happens if you don't do a restore. So we're going to say here ctx.restore to undo whatever we did previously. If you're wondering why, it is because the animation is being drawn multiple times in a split second, so that creates this weird effect. So we have to restore it, and then there we are, although the position of this is quite off. So I just have to figure out now what is the problem here. So let's look at this. We have here the outer radius, the center radius. This is a negative. We divide it all by 2. So let's double check. What are we missing here? So after checking, I realized this, of course, is completely off, because the center radius was related to calculating the center part here of the slice. And what we need is the other one. We need the, let's see here. I guess we should have here the center angle. So let's start to calculate that quickly. I'm going to copy that, put that in here, and we say here start angle. And then this start angle will be here. And then we can say a constant center angle, because the center angle is basically, this is here, start angle, and this is the end angle. So we need here the center angle. That's basically what we need here. So we're going to say here start. We can say start angle, or that's the start angle, and angles here, and then we're going to divide this by 2. That's what we need. Copy this, put it in here, save, refresh. Now we have this nicely working, and it is even moving if you look very carefully. All right, and it works on every one of them exactly in the center of that donut slice. You might see here is being clipped off. Don't worry, we will figure that out later on. So now what I want to do is I want to draw with these so-called connecting lines. So we're going to have one line, and then we have another one that's a straight flat line or horizontally straight line, so we can have the text on top of it. So let's start to work on that line. So we're going to say here line, and we're going to first draw it, and afterwards we're going to do some tricks on it, because we need to recalculate the position depending on where the slice is located. So what I'm going to do here is, well, let's see, what we need here is to create, let's create a line first, ctx.begin path. Then I'm going to say here ctx dot, and we can just give it a color, stroke, style, and the stroke style will just be gray or black, just similar black. And let's make sure that this is a line width of 2 pixels. There we are. So once we've got that, the very next thing what I want to do here now is start to get the position. So say here move to, and then the move to will be an X and Y position. And then here we'll have to figure out where exactly we want to start. Luckily we know if this is the dot, this is the starting position as well for our line. So I'm just going to grab this, put it in here, and then that one in there. Alright, so once we did that, oh, hold on, let's see what's going on here. Alright, sorry, everything is fine. The only thing is I should move this more down. And the reason why is we have here the dot, so we just put this here afterwards. That looks a bit better, it's a bit more organized. So now what I want to do is drawing the next connecting line. So we say line 2, and the line 2 here, we'll say very simple. We have the X position, and then I want to go basically from here, I want to go a little bit upwards and a little bit to the right. So we're going to say here, we can say here maybe plus 15 pixels. Then I want to go up. Remember, if you're going up here, we are going in the negative values. So what I'm going to say here, the Y position dot, and we can say here negative, I guess 15 as well. That should be fine. Save that, and let's say ctx dot stroke to see how that looks like. Save, refresh. All right, that looks quite good. So the next thing what I want to do is having the flat line. So that's the next part. So what I'm going to do here underneath is going to grab all of this, put it in here, and then to make a flat line, we don't adjust the Y position, because Y position will be only for up and down. So we just need to add up here, and let's say we're going to give it 100 pixels. So we say 115 pixels. Save, refresh. There we are. That looks much better. All right. So now we're done here, but if you look very carefully, this is not nice. This is here overlapping. This looks all absolutely weird. So what I want to do is to make it intelligent enough. How? If I hover basically on this side, we should always point it to the very right side. However, if I'm on the left side, we should point it to the left side so we are not overlapping the donut chart at all. Next, what I want to do is, if I'm down here, basically at the lower part, then I want this line to go downwards instead of upwards. So let's start to work on that. To do that, let's do the first thing here is left or right. So for the left or right, all I want to know is basically I'm going to adjust this. So let me just show you what I'm going to adjust, and then we're going to make a value out of it. So we can say this, if I do here negative, and then this negative, save, refresh, you can see here now it does exactly what we want. All right, but we want to make sure that this is a value, so it's intelligent. It will just know automatically. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say here let value, and I'm going to say here the X line. Another item what I'm going to call is the let value of X line attachment, and with this I refer the flat line here, that's the attached to the starting line. That's basically it. You can give it any name you want. I'm just giving it these just for the sake of it. So now I have this, and what I want to do is create an if statement. Say if this dot position is larger than 0. So what I mean here is basically this. The center, remember, this is why translate, where is it? This one here becomes now very, very important. We're basically looking at it that if we are on the center, or everything beyond the center, it is 0 or above. That's what we know. If we are before the center, or before the center basically, then it is always a negative number. So what we can do here is just quite simple. Say if the X dot is basically past the center, so it's 0 or higher, in that case X line, we're going to say this will be 15 pixels. Another one, the X line attachment, will be 100 pixels or 115 pixels. So if we do this, and then we can say else, Or we can just say if position, else one or the other, but I'll just leave it like that. Else, if that's not the case, what I want to do is make this sure that these are negative digits. So now we can just say X line here, and we just always do plus, because a plus negative is still a negative. So we can use that to our advantage. So here plus this. Let's save that, refresh. Now we move here, and as you can see here, this works nicely. So the next thing what I want to do now is making sure that if it's also downwards, and for that we're basically working with this. Remember, the negative push it upwards. If I make this a positive value, it will push it downwards like that. There we are. So now we have to make sure that this is intelligent enough, and you can see here this works nicely on every item. So what I'm going to do here, same logic, but in this case we only have one value. So I'll just say here the let, and I'll just put it here, up or down, and this will be the Y line. Then I'm going to say here, we can just copy all of this, using the same logic, except now we're going to say the Y position. Remember, because of translate, we have the 0 line here as well, so everything below the 0 is negative, is positive, and everything above the 0 is negative, because for Y going upwards is a negative number. So what I'm going to say here is the Y line, here the Y line, going to remove that, and remove this one as well, and then we say here this is it. I guess that's it. Put this in here, and then put that in there. Let's save this, refresh, and now we have this. Absolutely phenomenal, beautiful. However, I'm not satisfied with this here. We're going to work on that by just going to one small thing here. We're going to say we have the maintain aspect ratio, and then we're going to say here we want to have a padding. So we say layout. In this layout, we're going to do a padding, and this padding specifically will be for top, and we can just say maybe at 20 pixels, but also for bottom. And bottom, I will make this 50 pixels because I think we need more space at the bottom. Let's save that, refresh. You can see here now it's starting to change. And then I realized this one here will not work because there's a legend between there. Of course, there's a trick for that. I can probably do that in another video where I have that one. But for now, let's fine tune this. So I will just leave this as it is. We could hide the legend for now. And if you want to keep the legend, there's still a nice trick. I'll probably do that in another part. However, for now, this looks quite nice. And in the next video, we will start to focus on creating the text on this line.